Here we go.
My name's Carla Walton. My journey to being involved in DBT Training Australia began nearly 25 years ago when I was doing my postgraduate training in clinical psychology in Wollongong in New South Wales. I was seeing a client in a depression trial, but I was thinking this isn't depression as I know it, and what I'm doing is making this person worse. So as I looked into it, I discovered that she is someone who would have met criteria for borderline personality disorder. At that point, I had never heard of that disorder. So I started exploring what the treatment options were, and I came across DBT. And I signed up for a workshop because I needed to do something that would help the person that I was working with. So I was sitting in the workshop and I thought, I don't really like this therapy, but I'll do it for now because I don't know what else to do. And I needed something. And here I am 25 years later in a national training company for DBT, which is not what I would have ever expected. But I came to not just like the therapy, but love it and have incredible respect for the therapy that has been developed that has really had an answer for everything that I've needed for the people that I've been working with. I've seen it dramatically change the lives of so many individuals in an incredibly positive way, and it's also been incredibly useful in my own life. So after I finished my training as a clinical psychologist, I worked in public mental health in Sydney across inpatient, outpatient mental health services. And I was one of the very few clinicians who were willing to see people with borderline personality disorder. So that was most of the people that I saw. I delivered DBT-informed therapy as best as I could, and also did some work in DBT day programs in the private hospital system in Sydney. And from there, I moved up to a specialist service for borderline personality disorder and eating disorders within the public sector in Newcastle in New South Wales. The thing that prompted me to move up there was it was a service that offered comprehensive DBT as well as other therapy models for borderline personality disorder. And they also did training, consultation and research. But most of my career has actually been with that service. And for the past 4.5 years, I've been the director of that service. I've done a lot of DBT teaching the past 20 years. And then 10 years ago, I was invited to co-train with some trainers from DBT New Zealand, a BTEC affiliated training company. Mike and Kirsten are both directors of DBT New Zealand, and they will tell you more about it in a minute. And BTEC, if you don't know, is the training company in the US that was started by Marcia Linehan, who developed DBT. So prior to the training that I did with DBT New Zealand and BTEC trainers, I thought I was a reasonably good trainer. The feedback I got from people attending the training was that they were satisfied with the training. You don't know what you don't know as a trainer. And when you're a participant in training and you're going to learn a new therapy, you don't know how well that trainer knows the therapy or how competent they are as a trainer. They may or may not know the therapy very well. They may or may not be skilled at helping you to learn and able to deliver the therapy. So it's extremely important to me to know that I'm helping the clinicians to be able to help the people they're working with. Many of us here know that the lives of individuals, of the people that DBT was designed for, are incredibly painful. And the suffering for those individuals and their loved ones is enormous. And so, of course, we want those individuals to get high quality therapy that's going to help them alleviate their suffering and to build the lives that they would choose for themselves. And we want Aussie clinicians to be getting training that's really high quality to help them with the people they're working with. So linked with this, I want to address the elephant in the room of why we've got an Australian training company where 2/3 of the team are Kiwis, which probably seems a little strange. So at this point in time, I'm the only BTEC approved trainer in Australia, and Mike and Kirsten are 2 of the 3 BTEC approved trainers in New Zealand. So I just want to talk a little bit about what that means to be a BTEC trainer, because it might help make more sense of why the 3 of us are the directors of this training company. So to become a BTEC trainer is a process that involves a lot of rigor. So there's an extensive written application process, many hours of training as participants watching expert trainers, and many hours delivering training while we're being watched and evaluated by expert DBT trainers, including the director of training for BTEC. And we've been given feedback along the way about areas we need to develop. They needed to show we'd incorporated that feedback in the way that we train. So a lengthy process, but one that on the other end, we are all have grown a lot as trainers and as stronger trainers. And of course, we are still learning and growing, but that process has kind of, I think, helped to ensure that what we do is high quality training. I'm going to leave for Mike and Kirsten to tell you a bit more about why being involved with DBT Australia, Training Australia matters to them individually, but I just wanted to talk about our shared vision for the company, and that is about providing training at a high level of quality that we know has fidelity to the treatment, and where the trainers have worked to deliver their skills to be very effective in helping the clinicians they're working with. I'm going to hand over to Kirsten now to introduce herself and talk a little bit about, why it matters to her to be involved with DBT Training Australia, and then Mike will follow after that.
Thanks, Carla. All right. Kia ora koutou katoa. Ko pani koutou maunga, ko tatai te awa, ko maraitai te moana, no Clevedon, Auckland aho, ko Kirsten Davis tōku ingoa. So good evening for all of you. I'm ringing in from actually a hotel room because I'm in the middle of a part 2 intensive training, and really excited to be here and to join you, Carla and Mike, and all of you for giving up your time to join us. So my journey is sort of about 20 years long, and began actually quite some time ago as a very newly trained clinical psychologist in a community mental health service, working with adolescents and families. And in those kind of early stages of working in the service, started working with some very kind of complex and high risk young people who presented with significant risk in terms of suicidal behavior and non-suicidal self-injurious behavior, and started a journey actually all those years ago with Emily, who's joining us today, and bringing DBT and the adaptations of DBT to adolescents in New Zealand. And so that started, a long journey of not just walking alongside and supporting services in New Zealand and setting up programs for adolescents and families, but also myself in developing clinically over that time. And so I've worked in sort of many different places and spaces, community-based therapy settings, in residential care settings called Oranga Tamariki, where particularly high-risk youth who are under our care and protection services are seen and working alongside that service to provide evidence-based therapies. Sorry, can I just ask you to mute if possible, whoever's there? Amazing, thank you. So one of the privileges I've had as part of my journey has been developing a company called DBT New Zealand alongside Mike and Emily, and passionately being able alongside them to start to grow and support services in New Zealand to develop adherent DBT services and programs. And so we see programs across New Zealand, and one of the challenges that many of us face is it's an insurmountable challenge sometimes to set up programs, but then how to keep programs going. So one of the things I'm really interested in is implementation and how to support programs to set up and continue to grow. And so I was born in Australia. I have family in Australia. And so that's my connection to Australia, and very, very excited given the growth that we've seen in New Zealand and the opportunity and the privilege I've had to walk alongside them, the development and training of both individual clinicians, teams and services. And so I'm really super excited to be able to do this alongside you, Carla, and Mike in this next stage of our journey. And so for me, it feels close to home, but not home in Australia. But yeah, really, really thankful for the opportunity actually. And so looking forward to it. The other thing very much that's very close to my heart also is thinking about cultural responsivity of DBT and thinking about our Indigenous cultures. And given in New Zealand we have sort of limited research into looking at how to think about using DBT and how that works alongside people from different cultures, particularly Māori culture is one of the things that I'm excited to be walking alongside those who have expertise, cultural expertise, to kind of think about that in different ways. So thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting, and I look forward to this evening and hopefully meeting some of you again sometime soon.
All right. Well, I think that's a tag to me. Is that a tag to me?
It sure is.
It is. Oh, all right. Thank you, Kirsten. I'm just going to take away that little spotlight. We'll do our thing. Good evening. My name's Mike Batchelor. I've changed my name, so it's accurate now. I mean, foremost, I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been registered since 1990, and it's quite a long time. And most of that time working with adult outpatient mental health services in New Zealand. For a short while working in corrections and also on the NHS. I've been providing DBT since 1998, so that's quite some time now. And when we established New Zealand's first DBT program, it was one of those things where you just read the book and you do lots of self-study. I'm sure you've all been there. And then you think, what the hell are we doing? So we finally got some training in the year 2000. And I have to say it was a really inspirational trainer. The trainers who I've since learned are in the kind of pantheon of DBT greats included Cindy Sanderson, Kelly Kerner, and Amy Wagner. And, even had a team over from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales. And we've been running this program ever since. It really started the fire that's become essentially a continuity of DBT care for, is that 25 years? I don't want to think about that. It's too long. When we started, it was pretty obvious there was both interest in DBT and we wanted to build a community of practice around us because we didn't want to be alone. So we're lucky enough in 2005 to get a government grant to establish a training venture in New Zealand, specifically with a focus on New Zealand at that time, and form an alliance with Behaviour Tech that Carla's already introduced. And I think we've been astonishingly lucky in this country and in this corner of the world to have that support from Behaviour Tech, because they really have helped us to develop, first and foremost as strong clinicians and obviously as trainers, and to help build a DBT community, because it's just like a bigger team really, that we want a whole community of practice. So first of all, I'm a practicing clinical psychologist. I provide all the modes of DBT and program coordination. Been doing that for a quarter of a century. Oh my God, it's about fell off my chair. I've never said that before. It was like deeply frightening. I'm LBC certified clinician, Linehan Board of Certification. I'm a Behaviour Tech trainer, a site wire consultant, trainer for DBT Training Australia, obviously, as well as DBT New Zealand. I do a bit of supervision and consultation to teams and individuals in Australia, just a little bit. And I'm a adherence coder for, I've been trained, I should say, in adherence coding by on the Behaviour Research and Therapy Clinic scale, and do some voluntary work for LBC. So DBT is a big part of my life. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about essentially why we're BTEC affiliates and what that means to us. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is our point of difference as a training provider that we hope to bring to share with people. So Carla's talked about the rigor of BTEC. Kind of can't be understated if you want to hang out with those people. And I want to talk about the connections in the community that we feel a part of, and that I guess we're bringing forward in this venture. One thing I've really valued is the relationships that are fostered within the BTEC family as such. And that kind of gives us links to the sort of best of the best, really, in terms of trainers and researchers in the extended DBT family. I think we have a lot of other links with Australia as well. In fact, Roy Crowitz, who some of you may know, was a DBTNZ colleague of ours in the early days. And it was Roy and Christine Watson who set up Spectrum. I think that they were involved in the setup of Spectrum all those years ago. So there's kind of a lot of links that go back right through this Australasian community. Another significant person is Emily Cooney. You'll find Emily a little square on the screen here. Emily returned to New Zealand in 2006, and we immediately, she became a part of our training venture. And I'll see if we can put Emily on the spot later. We'll see if we get away with that. But I think, Emily's become a very important person in Australasia as a BTEC trainer, consultant, a researcher. And you're going to hear later on about some of the research that she's been doing in conjunction with Carla, when Carla talks about telehealth and its current applications. I think Emily probably introduced, past my bedtime. No, it's not Emily. She's trying to avoid us. I think avoidance is unskillful, Emily. Anyway, so Yeah, I think it was Emily who actually introduced Carla and myself, and that was before we did an intensive training together in Sydney 5 years ago, I think, Carla, which was memorable for a lot of positive reasons. I want to talk about our point of difference. I mean, Carla's already talked about BTEC, and we've said the word BTEC probably about 50 times already. I think, you know, our work is about delivering a vision that's very concordant with what BTEC was set up for, which is to develop and support high fidelity DBT treatments. Our links with BTEC community keep us up to date, and they help us kind of raise our standards, and they help us be even more acutely aware of the issues around fidelity and adherence. Now, just side note, because it's kind of jargon, but fidelity is kind of the degree to which you know, the components of DBT are actually implemented as they're written, and adherence is the accuracy of the therapist's delivery. Now, it's very important to me as a clinician that we pay careful attention to both of those things. And one of the things that we want to bring to our training ventures is a careful attendance to fidelity issues and to a secondary degree adherence, because we think when we're trying to provide, when we are providing treatments to people with complex multiple problems and suicidal behavior, they actually need good care. So that's front and foremost of our vision, is that we bring training that has an emphasis on fidelity and adherence. And I think that is actually a point of difference. So, but you know, you be the judge, you'll see. In terms of our training, a key focus is that we do want to run in-person, face-to-face trainings. I don't know how you feel about Zoom, but I kind of prefer hanging out with people. It's more fun. We also want to make use of online opportunities because they do reduce access barriers. We are going to offer less training than some other DBT providers in Australia, training providers in Australia. And that's really because we've got day jobs and we're quite busy. So you might have a little bit of a delay in getting a response from us on email, but we will get back to you. Another one of the things that we're very passionate about and we've made a lot of use of, and I actually think I've met a lot of people on this call in conjunction with, is that we've, through, I guess, the networks, we've brought a lot of people over to New Zealand, and actually some of you have travelled across this way to participate and benefit from that. Melanie Harned and Laurie Rochel have been out here twice, I think, for DBT intensive training, prolonged exposure trainings. Liz Dexter-Mazza has presented out here around DBT in schools. Rob McCann, who's got expertise in forensics, has spent time and done training here. And Lucine Wazinski was also providing some input around intensive trainings and training specifically in eating disorders. And we hope to, actually, we've got Melanie interested in coming to Australia to provide a DBT prolonged exposure intensive training, and we'll tell you a bit more about that as the evening goes on. So look, that's a lot of words about us. And hopefully it gives you a touch of where we're coming from. And now I'm going to sub back to Carla. I'm going to add a little spotlight there and pass back to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Can you stop recording?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. All right. How do you do that without end of the call?